Our story begins with a group of adventurers living in the medieval kingdom of Larion. The kingdom is filled with small villages and thatched cottages and has been relatively peaceful until now. The adventurers are on a quest to find the magical staff of Salos. They walk through the forest and notice a band of mountain dwarves. The dwarves are friendly and offer them food and drink. Then one of the dwarves turns to them and suddenly attacks. The adventurers defend themselves, but one of them, a human, is killed for their troubles. The dwarf leader addresses them again. You have been chosen by Dorna to hold the staff of Salos. This weapon is powerful beyond compare and can only be wielded by those pure of heart. You must travel with us to our mountain home, where we can better discuss this matter. The adventurers accept and travel further with the dwarves into their mountain home.
So the dwarf killed one of the people in our group.
And then was like, "You've been chosen!"
Like that one person hadn't been chosen.
Cass finds the human corpse and takes his dagger for herself. She begins cutting up the body when the dwarves protest, saying that eating humans is taboo, and they'll suffer terrible consequences if they do so. Kaz eats the human corpse and gains some nourishment, but suffers a headache afterwards, which lasts for several hours. She decides not to eat any more corpses until the headache goes away. Afterwards, it's all good to go. Alright, what would you guys need to do your move?
Exabel vomits all over her clothes, then throws up. Her headache disappears as well.
Oh, you had a headache too.
Tess pats Cass on the shoulder and says, "Good job, Cass. I'm proud of you." So should we start going on this adventure?
Cass says thanks and then goes back to eating corpses like last time. I guess my headache's gone. Alright.
No. Tess frowns and goes back to eating corpses like last time too.
Cass travels further into the mountain with the dwarves until they reach a large cave opening where several dozen dwarves are waiting. They appear to be armed with swords, axes, halberds, and even a couple of flamethrowers.
Tess also travels further into the mountain with the dwarves until they reach a large cave opening where several dozen dwarves are waiting. They appear to be armed with swords, axes, halberds, and even a couple of flamethrowers.
Exabel follows Cass and the two group meet in battle. A few minutes later, Exabel falls to her knees. She looks at her sword and is gone.
Wait, are we fighting the dwarves? Is that what's happening?
I'm going to choose to assume that we're fighting the dwarves who were by the cave opening.
Cass approaches a dwarf who looks nearly identical to Chief. Who's Chief?
Just
Master Chief?
I guess.
In terms of build and facial hair pattern. He holds up his hand and says, "Hold on there, partner. We haven't forgotten about your demands." Cass thinks for a moment and then says, "Chief, we need more toilets." It says you should check up on Steven. Steven's kind of dying here.
Actually, I'm going to do something far more important.
Tess explains that the town has had a toilet drought for many months and they are in dire need of toilets from Chief.
Chief nods solemnly and goes off in search of toilets.
Exabel explains that she's had enough of fighting dwarves and would like to leave the mountain with Kaz, only with me. Kaz examines her wounds and realizes she'll need at least a week to heal properly if they're going to make it out alive.
Tess goes into the cave entrance with her camera and begins taking pictures of everything inside.
We're in the middle of a war!
Exabel's wound begins to mend quickly and she soon recovers fully. The next day, the dwarves return from their journey and tell Cass they've found a small village nearby called Dwarven Town.
The dwarves didn't know about Dwarven Town, it seems.
The dwarves tell them that Dwarven Town has been abandoned for quite some time and has decayed into a state where toilets are non-existent, making their quest impossible. Dwarven Town was their last hope for toilets.
No, we can't get any more toilets.
Exabel's wounds have healed, but she is still very weak. She needs a rest before continuing her quest. The dwarves agrees and take her back to the cave entrance.
Needed a rest. Kaz gives Exabel one rest. Exabel sleeps for 1 week straight. Kaz wonders what she's doing, but doesn't bother asking since she knows that Dwarven beer does wonders for Exabel's healing abilities. 1 week later, she wakes up refreshed and ready to continue her quest. Okay, it's a week later. We have no toilets and we will never get any. It seems.
So should we just go for getting that staff or whatever?
I guess.
The
I don't know.
Salas?
Because
the toilet quest is clearly like... We got like a little message that said that quest had been like failed.
Yeah. Should have been quicker on the dwarf train. The dwarves tell them that the staff is under lock and key in the Dwarven Museum in Salon City, but they can probably break in there.
So we're gonna break in a museum.
With the dwarves whose museum it is. The only problem is that the museum is heavily guarded.
Yeah, I'd think so.
Apparently, if it has a staff of Salos just in there.
Tess decides to travel to Silent City with the group and scout it out first, since it might be useful in case they need a base of operations between here and Tellus.
That's where we came from, apparently.
Okay. Along the way, she teaches Cass how to brew potions, which I apparently know.
Of
You're
course you do.
welcome. When they arrive in Celan City, Cass and Exabel split off, while Celan, Lena, and so Celan is also a person in our group.
Oh,
Lena and
cool.
the gnome,
This is his
Pyromancer Cannon,
museum.
stay in a tavern
it's
called the
his-
Flying Griffin.
Since me and Steven are off alone. Exabel admits that she's always been afraid of enclosed spaces, even though she's been in much bigger ones. The entire ship from the last game, for example. Okay. Cass figures she should probably get her over that fear since she'll be around underground areas a lot.
Tess
Go
finds
ahead.
out that the museum isn't excessively guarded. However, there are reports of an interesting exhibit that the museum staff would like patrons to see. A visitor who claims to be from the Delantium Kingdom apparently has been showing up in various places and claiming that Celan is now part of the Delantium Kingdom. So he's a crazy person who doesn't know what's happening around him.
Yes, I make an attempt to suffocate Steven to let her overcome her fear. While Cass isn't fond of killing her friends, she's willing to do it if it means getting this quest done quicker. So she uses the enchantment that causes suffocation. She puts the enchantment on the end of her staff and waits until later that night when everyone goes to sleep. Then she sneaks into Exabel's tent and hits her with the spell. She dies instantly without a sound of struggle.
Exabel realizes that something bad is going to happen soon and tries casting a fireball at the gnome Pyromancer. Unfortunately, his fire resistance saves him from the blast. He runs away, crying and screaming.
Well, that wasn't very smart. Of course the fucking Pyromancer would have fucking fire protection. Who did I kill?
Killed
You
me.
killed Steven.
But apparently not. He just cast a fire spell.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
because
but-
Steven ignored the fact that he died.
You realize that Cass imagined killing her friend too. She panics and runs away in tears since she thinks she's going to be executed for murdering an innocent woman.
She saw an old man in a robe sitting on a throne-like chair. He didn't look very dangerous, except he was old and walking like a cane. Walking with the cane. When he saw her, he pointed his finger at her and began casting a spell. She tried to run away, but she was paralyzed. Am I telling everyone that this happened? Or is this just happening
I think
now?
so. I
The
think
old
that
man
is-
then raised his other hand and summoned something. A dragon. It wasn't alive either. It was a statue that came to life.
The gnomes cast a barrier around Cass to stop her from fleeing. They were right as she ran off into the forest where she met up with the rest of your party.
Cass is hiding in the woods, afraid of what she has done. She tries to build a forest hut. Cass is too distraught to even think about building a proper shelter, so she hides in the nearest available one she can find. A forest hut! Great, that's what I need. She spends most of her time trying to convince herself that she isn't evil or possessed by a demon. It doesn't work since she knows she's right. It doesn't work for me to convince myself I'm not evil or possessed by a demon because I know I'm right.
You know, it's like
Cool.
tickling yourself. You can't convince yourself of anything.
Because I already know that I'm correct.
Yes.
She feels sick about it though. She spends her remaining time alive by herself in the woods. She eventually dies of starvation, dehydration, or both. Her body's found days later.
You decide to try again and you have Cass resurrected. You give her a new name, Tess, which means life in some ancient language. She lives happily ever after with the rest of your party.
Okay, was that the end of the story? It seems like it. Cass becomes known as Tess. She eventually marries one of your other adventurers. Is it Tess? She has several children, lives a long life. Eventually she dies peacefully in her sleep at the ripe age of 112.
Tess says, well, that's kind of awkward. Congratulations, you've just beaten the game. I'm not going to say there aren't any more endings or anything like that, but if there are, they're going to be pretty obscure or silly. Because this is as far as I'm going with it.
It makes it seem like there's an actual person sitting there actually saying all of this. I'm
Yeah.
not doing anymore. This is the
Like
work I'm doing.
they're done with this adventure.
So we never got the staff of Salos, but we did end up living happily ever after. So, you know, who cares?
Yeah.
That's a good one. I like that one.